What's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here, aka the Geek from DFS Army, and this is your NFL Week 10 Week in Review. All right, what's up, everyone? As you know, every single week of the NFL season, I like to go back and do a review of what worked in the previous week, what approaches worked, what tournament approaches worked, what kind of stacks worked to take down the Milli Maker on DraftKings, what worked in cash, all of that. And today was one of the first, this week was one of the first weeks where we actually had a 150 entry guy take down the DraftKings Milli Maker. So we are going to review that lineup, that approach. We're going to take a look at what Epi did to take down the Milli Maker in NFL Week 10, what kind of exposures he used. This is really, really important. And if you're in DFS Army, we can use some of this for our back testing and also just to look back on our content and see, hey, what went right, what went wrong. Now, on screen, you're looking at my best lineup of the week, which was a 181. Not that great, but it was still good enough for 38th place in the Flea. Not bad, but not good enough. And as you can see, the big miss here was Godwin, who I was very heavy on. I would play him again. I was very heavy on Godwin, and that was the way it went. It looks like, to win the Milli Maker, you would have needed a couple of swaps here. And you'll see, of course, actually some stuff I talked about in the notes, which I will pop on screen here shortly, actually just really strongly came true. So I'm looking forward to showing you that. But before we get into that, guys, I want to throw some congratulations out to Bakesman. And again, look at Bakesman, a 179. So this is a little bit about what I talked about all throughout the week and on all of our shows and everything. You can win big money without having a perfect score if you enter the SPY, if you enter smaller contests. So if you ever needed another kick in the ass to understand why entering a 400,000 entrant tournament is harder than one with 1,000 entries or 500 or even 1,500 entries, let this be the explanation. Bakesman, it's this $100 entry. Got 10K on a 179. That was a very achievable score this week. So congrats to Bakesman. I got another Bakesman right here. It's not me, but if you get it, if you don't know, then you don't know. All right. So I also want to congratulate the GOAT himself, Adrock Bucks Win It All, aka Burns, on yet another entry into the King of the Beach tournament. That's 5 or 6 at this point. He is going to max it out. I apologize in advance to Sox Fever for a game well played. Almost got it. At least you got a lot of money. It's always nice at least to get some money back if you're not going to actually win the ticket. So 2 DFS Army men enter. Both leave happy this week in that contest. And finally, let's get right into, actually, I want to go to something I did in the notes this week as well. And I just want to, I always like to look at my own content, and I'm not sure if you guys can see this or not, but this is a note I put up in DFS Army Discord on Sunday. Every Sunday, I do Sunday notes, and I try to kind of give little updates, mainly on new information that might have come out. Let me make this a little bit bigger. New information that might have come out that week that's pertinent to the slate. And, I was addressing some of the new news items, and the first thing I mentioned here is Big Ben out for the Steelers. The entire offense gets a bit of a downgrade. We had been core Najee Harris all week, and when Big Ben got the COVID, that was enough. I said, Harris goes from a core lock to one of just a few kind of good pay-up options at running back on the slate. So I was going to lock in Najee in that matchup. Definitely came off of that. I really didn't have almost any Najee Harris by the time the slate went down. I shifted my focus, of course, over to Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, and Dalvin Cook. Taylor was the best of the group, but they all did pretty well. We also came off of Deontay Johnson a little bit. Same reason. Don't want Mason Rudolph powering my high cost wide receiver. So we got off of that. And here's the good one, or here's the more exciting one. The other news nugget. Ramondre Stevenson will play today. I'm expecting him to get the bulk of the RB work for the Patriots. He's a dynamic player that's used in the passing game, but the matchup isn't the greatest. Definitely interesting GPP pivot off the RB value chalk. And I want to talk about, like, if you actually watched my content, I talked about how the field. Well, I'll continue actually. Speaking of the RB value chalk, this slate's all about Dearness Johnson and Mark Ingram. Both are wildly cheap, and looking at massive workloads, both should be approaching 34%. And I did an ironic roster ship. I tend to eat that type of chalk. Others will try to fade it. Many of you will ask what to do, but that's a personal decision for each player. Both RBs are massively underpriced for their volume expectation. When I do the math, I think that most of the field will play one of the value guys, but it will be less common to play both. So the combo of the two will be scarcer. All right, I'm going to leave it at that, but I'm going to go into this just a little bit more. So the field tries to get cute in these situations. We're going to take a look at the tournament winner in a minute. The field tries to get cute in these situations, and I gave you the warning. So there were two things that I had observed that the field was wrong about. Number one, I was all over Twitter, and all I hear is people talking about J.J. Taylor from the Patriots or Bolden. So it's like, oh, they're misreading who the starter is. That's good for us, right? I knew we would get Ramondre Stevenson at very, very low ownership because the field was wrong. The Twitter people who go out and give advice were wrong. And luckily, I look at Twitter and I see those people doing that. And so I'm like, holy shit, they misread the situation. That helps us, DFS Army, right? Because I didn't misread the situation. It was always going to be Ramondre Stevenson. Good stuff, right? The other thing was the field is hesitant to play multiple cheap options at running back together. They don't like it. It makes them uncomfortable. The psychology of the field is they must be shit. As a matter of fact, all the, quote, get cute analysts are like, oh, I'm going to fade that. I'm going to fade this. Everybody wants to fade it. Meanwhile, look at Mark Ingram, not that high owned. Look at Ramondre Stevenson, 3-4% owned. So the field wants to get cute and fade these situations, thinking only donkeys play backup running backs and starting roles. Let them think that. I will be that donkey every single fucking time. I will let you know that I played 95% Dearness Johnson. I played about 70% Mark Ingram, and I played Ramondre as well. So, and I did not have any issue putting all three together, as you see in my notes. Now, let's go over to what won the DraftKings Milli Maker this week. We're on the Fantasy Labs contest dashboard. This is a tool you could check out on Fantasy Labs. This is, I like to look at this just to see who won and what they did, how they put their lineups together. So, Epi99. Finally, we have a 150 entrant guy, and a lot of, if you take a look, Ray Poupon was all over the leaderboards as well. Kudos to him. But we had a lot of the 150 entry guys taking down tournaments this week, whereas it's been like almost a whole season of one entry guys, single one-offs that have taken it down. So this is really, it might have been the second or third, but it could have been, it's been less frequent that the 150 entry guys take down a tournament. So, win one for the MMEers, right? And let's take a look at the lineup that won. Of course, it is a combo of Dearness Johnson, Mark Ingram, and Ramondre Stevenson, all the value chalk at running back. Not chalk. You have Dearness Johnson and Ingram, who were not, they were not even that chalky. 26% for Ingram. What? Dearness only 48, and then only 3% for Ramondre Stevenson. This is crazy. Crazy. How did I not hit this? Sick over it. Sick over it personally. But I'm going to tell you guys something. Yeah, I mean, we killed it. We really did. I love it when this was my kind of week. I eat the running back value chalk. I just do. And I'll go all in. People ask me, when can you go 100% on a play? These are the type of plays. And that's right. The high price running backs haven't even been really delivering anyway. So it's fine. Take the value. But what was I going to say here? I'm curious to see what Epi99 did for his overall exposures. I'm already seeing that he's got 115 players, and a max of 30%. So it looks like he achieved this lineup without going heavy on these running backs, which is even crazier for me. And then I want to take a look at Ray Poupon, who was all over the leaderboards in a lot of the contests I was in, to see what his approach was. So we'll get a look at all of that. But another thing I wanted to talk about before that was this week on the Players Club podcast, on the game plan I do with John Statsational Alessia. Every Thursday, we talked about this week being the week with all that running back value, and especially even the great, like at the time it was Najee Harris, Ernest, and Ingram, where I said, I am going against my normal rule where I X out running back from the flex on DraftKings, because running back, normally I don't play them in the flex. I X'd out that rule and I went 100% running back in the flex. It was obviously the correct decision. It's what took down the tournament. So hopefully, like I said, a lot of the guys followed my lead there and played running backs in the flex. It was the right week to do so. And understanding why it was, because of all the running back value, that's why it was the right week. That's why you have to be able to adjust every single week to what's going on around you. You've got to be able to adjust every week. That's how you, there's no one rule. And this is, a lot of people don't like it, but it is what it is. There's no one rule that covers everything. So let's take a look at Epi. Again, let's take a look at this lineup. It was a simple lineup from Epi here. There was no game stack. It was just, or his main stack was not a game stack. It was a team stack, right? Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs. Very simple QB wide receiver stack. Simple. Played our two clear chalk running backs. Added in a third clear chalk running back. Easy to do, right? At wide receiver, just paid up for a couple of good spots. Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb, that were kind of low owned relative to some other players. So he avoided this lineup. I don't think this was intentional. This lineup avoided Godwin, avoided Evans, avoided maybe some not as good chalk plays up top. Keenan Allen just did fine. Didn't have a special score, but it was enough. And obviously Diggs smashed, but the big one was CeeDee Lamb smashed here. And just, pairing up kind of the lucking into the right tight end and the right defense finished up the job. So really good job for Epi99. Let's take a look at all of his exposures. I'm just curious. It looks like, so he maxed out at 30%. And let's take a look at the quarterback position because, all right, so his play this week was load up on Josh Allen, Dak Prescott. Those two both worked out really well. Matt Ryan Tannehill. Looks like he went under. Let's see where Brady is. Full fade of Brady. Fucking big ball motherfucker. Full fade of Brady. It's funny. It looks like he'll allow all of the QBs to mix their way in. And my guess is a lot of the QB exposure was just driven by projections, just based on the small amounts here in his optimizer. So I'm just guessing, but I'm assuming it was driven by projections. I do see here that he definitely limited his running back pool to max of 30%. Let's see how much Ramondre, just a little bit over the field. So listen, this was just a lucky sort of break that he found his way into the lineup. Did not go very heavy on Ramondre. Wow, you can win the Milli Maker without being super heavy. So yeah, these definitely appear to be projection-driven exposures, and yeah, you had some, I would say, pretty mediocre players mixed in here as well. Not a whole lot of working of it. Here you go. Tyler Conklin actually smashed, but Hayden Hurst, you're really gross. OJ Howard. So a lot of kind of misses, but that all it takes is one. Let's see where Hunter Henry was. Yeah, again, maybe his only Hunter Henry or one of just two Hunter Henry lineups just happened to take down the Millie. So this feels a little bit like things all fell into place really nicely for Epi, who did not have the greatest of overall exposures, but rather just had this one really great one come together. Let's see. One other note, the ownership percentage for the winning roster, 121%. So a little over the 120. Normally we say keep it under 130, a range between 80 and 130. So this came in at 121%. That's cool. Yeah, really good stuff. Congratulations to Epi99. I just want to take a look at Grey Poupon here, who I saw all over a lot of different leaderboards. I want to get a look at his exposures and just kind of see if he did it any different. So here we go. He did. Oh, that's what's up, right? Fucking A. Love it. Now, I see some negative here, but I see some greatness. The negative being not necessarily getting off of Najee Harris when, the quarterback position changed for whatever that's worth. That didn't really work. But here is the big win. 30% Ramondre when he was going to start. So this move alone jacking up a $4,500 3% owned player to 30%. That's a tournament winning move right there. Yeah, kind of wishing I had done that, to that extent. Really would have had a lot of better results. Mark Ingram, 32%. Dearness Johnson, though, all in. So there is definitely an all in play here. Dearness Johnson, 80% exposure. I'm just going to take a look at what else he did. Went crazy on Josh Allen. So he pretty much played this slate like I'm loading up on Allen, a little bit of Dak, and you know what? YOLO, fuck the rest, which worked out really well as well. Interesting, again, another pretty high fade of Tom Brady. A lot of people talked about Tom Brady last week and coming off a bye and how bad teams have been coming off a bye. That seems to be holding true. We also saw Rodgers really look shitty after not playing, and Russell Wilson really looking bad after not playing for a little bit. So, this narrative lately of teams coming off a bye, being off, has definitely held true, and it's something we need to be focused on going forward. It is not a coincidence that teams are playing bad off a bye this year. I had a friend of mine call me up and go, "You can't play Brady. He's coming off a bye. That's been a disaster this season." And you know what? He's right. And at some point, stop, don't get cute. Just believe that, right? I'm just going to start believing that. What's the worst that happened? They play well. So what? Take a look at the wide receiver exposures for Grey Poupon here. Yeah, very heavy on Josh Allen. So he's going to be heavy on the wide receivers for the Bills. Stephon Diggs went crazy here. Tons of leverage. He was low owned. Cole Beasley went nuts. Didn't have a good game. Mike Evans, again, pretty chalky play. Cooper, Tyler Johnson, a little bit of chalk here. Some weird exposures, I'm going to say, or, I guess this is what happens when you load up on one wide receiver. You just don't get that high exposure to everyone else. But I mean, the wide receiver exposure is what held him back. I'm not seeing really any second wide receiver that really did well. So let's take a look at his lineups. And yeah, I mean, this is where it went wrong. So he had a lot of great running backs, Ramondre, Ingram, and Dearness. Good defense. Diggs, but then was not able to surround Diggs with good enough players to take down any kind of a tournament. Adams and Godwin didn't work. Here's another one with, Lamb was somebody you needed a lot more of, and this one came close. I think if he, let me just go back to wide receiver. If he had a little more CD Lamb, where is he? I can't even find him. Yeah. 5%. So if he had a little more CD Lamb, I think he probably competes or potentially takes down the Milli Maker. Probably needed to get Lamb up to about 10 or 15%, something more than what he had. That probably would have been enough to get there. But overall, couple different users, different approaches. As I said, I prefer the Grey Poupon approach this week, where he definitely loaded up on the clear-cut best play on the slate. Dearness Johnson goes above the field and loaded up on a player who the field was not correct about and misassessing. And that is the best thing you can do in DFS, especially in tournaments, when you discover a situation where the field is wrong. And again, how do I know the field is wrong? Again, because when I see tweets from what I'm going to call known reputable DFS touts, I don't want to name any names. I don't call people out here, but reputable DFS touts, names that you've heard of, and they're out tweeting about JJ Taylor or Brandon Bolden's season or whatever. And I'm like, what, are these guys crazy? That's not what happens, Raymond. So being wrong about that, and I assume that the field follows those guys, plus our ownership projections reflected it. This guy was going to be low owned. So that's when you want to jump on a situation in the future. Remember, if you're mass multi-entering, I'm just going to show this again. This should have been a pretty good week for MMEers, but overall, yeah, it was a better week for mass multi-entry people than usual. I see a lot more MME types in the money this week on a percentage base. I'm not going to count them out, but I can already see it's more like 20% finished in the money. Let's see on the second screen here. Yeah, this one brings it back down. Still probably 10 or 15%, but it was a slightly up week. But remember that when you're mass multi-entering in the main slate or any slate, when you enter 150, your expectation should always be that 90% of the time you're going to lose money. 90% of the time. And how do I know? Because if you check the fucking tools, you can see that 90% of the people who mass multi-enter, look at all this red, they all lost money, right? So that happens every single week. I've checked it years. This is going on for years. You should expect that 90% of the time when you enter 150, you're going to lose money. Contrary to what you see on social media by the people say, hey, if I had 150, I would always win. No, you wouldn't. You definitely wouldn't. So really awesome week. This was my kind of week in DFS. Like I said, I love loading up on cheap value running back chalk. That is just an approach that I've been using from the beginning. I love that the field thinks it's donkey to do that everybody does it, because it's gotten so contrarian that now it's actually the opposite. Like there was a time when that was a little bit donkeyish because everybody was doing it, but it's been so many years since that was the case. And the consensus, and I know it because even people within DFS are like, oh, you're not playing D'Ernest, are you, at high ownership? You're crazy. Or you're not playing Mark Ingram, are you? That's donkey move. I play it, and if they failed, I didn't give a shit because I always play it. That's my style. But I understand for people who want to fade those situations, and I'm cool with that as well. I think there is and something I talked about all throughout the week. There's a difference between good chalk and bad chalk. And you could tell the difference. If the chalk is coming from a team that usually doesn't produce from the running back position, that's when it goes from good to bad. So if you take some team that never does much with the running back anyway, and now their running back is like hurt and the next guy up is starting. I'll give an example of like Carlos Hyde a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if they'd say they never do, but like, I wouldn't be playing their running back anyway. It's like a bad matchup, but hey, he's starting, like all of last season with David Johnson. Those are bad chalk spots. You don't want to play those. But if you're talking about D'Ernest Johnson on a team that produces points from the running back position every week, you play that. Like when the Bears lost their Montgomery and Khalil Herbert was getting the full boatload, you play that. Because that's a team that focuses the run regardless. So it depends on the team, but more often than not, if they're a team that produces points to the running back position and we can be sure that running back is getting pretty close to a full workload, then we can jump right into that spot. And yes, Damon, I'm pretty much on board, especially this week, that A.J. Dillon is a must play. I'm guessing, and I haven't done the first look lineup yet. That usually I'll do that tomorrow on Tuesdays. But I'm guessing that on FanDuel, he's way cheaper. DraftKings priced him up to $6K, kind of fair pricing, but I'm loading up on him for $6K. But I'm guessing that FanDuel, you know what? Let me check it here while we talk. But I'm guessing that FanDuel did not price. And I could be wrong. Could be wrong. Haven't looked. I'm looking now. Could be wrong. But I'm going to take a look at FanDuel, and I want to see, of course, they're only showing me tonight's game. Let's get a look at the Sunday Million on FanDuel, and let's see where Dillon is. Come on, Dillon. Oh, they did price him up. Damn it. $7K, still good, but they didn't give you a free square. All right. I like the free square. You know, I like the free square because the people won't play it anyway. Even if he was 6K, he wouldn't be 100% owned. Like he wouldn't even be 80%. He'd be like 35 on FanDuel, and I'd play him 100% and get an edge on the field. Now at 7K on FanDuel, 6K on DraftKings, I'm still playing him. Still playing him because the matchup is good. But if it was a bad matchup, I probably wouldn't play him. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for the NFL Week 10 Week in Review. Remember, as always, I will be back tonight or later today with the GOATs, or I'm not sure which of the GOATs, but Bobby Wow, DFS Up North, breaking down tonight's single game showdown breakdown, where my turds at special. Tomorrow, I will have DraftKings and FanDuel first look lineup shows out there. Remember, it's just a first look, guys. I see a lot of people checking out the first look lineup on Saturdays and Sundays. Shit changes, but we're going to get a look at the slate, look at the salaries, get a feel for things. You know, shit happens midweek. Guys get COVID and everything turns up on his head. I hope you crush Tiers Tattoo. I've been playing Tiers every week. It's really, really great format. I love it. Very winnable. And especially if you have a hard time winning regular main slate DFS, I highly recommend moving over to Tiers. It's really different strategically. You can apply game theory much, much more with more strength, especially with our ownership projections over at DFS Army. So make sure to check that out. And that'll do it for this one, guys. Good luck. As always, tonight we'll be back with the Showdown Breakdown, and we'll see you back next week for another week of robust content. We crushed it this past week. Don't crush it every week. Not saying that we do, but we did this past week, which was awesome. And I hope, oh yeah, there it is. Took it down. 3-way. Hell yeah. Send me that screenshot, bro. I want to cheer you. Fucking A. Hell yes. Love it. Let's see that screenshot. And yeah, that'll do it for this one, guys. I will be back later today with the Showdown Breakdown.